New estimates for the upcoming USDA report with Jerry Gidel right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So Jerry, we had some interesting market activity during this week, but before we talk about that, let's go to the USDA numbers that you have updated with your estimates. We call it the Jerry Gidel crystal ball. But basically, you have lowered the yields for both corn and soybeans just slightly. And what's behind that prediction?
Well, looking at these production numbers that's been updated over the last month, first we had the numbers coming out from Pro Farmers Tour, which is a very good tour. It does extensively look at the seven major Midwest states and actually gets examples out of the particular fields out there and that. So that was, I think, a real positive look at what was going on out there. Their number on a nationwide basis went down 2 bushels from 183.1 to 181.1 from there. And so that to me set kind of a tone that we're going to have a little less average yield, which you turned out to be here from the trade expectations. Now, the grand tradition of the USDA is to start with a low number and then slowly go higher as the season goes along here on good years. Now, sometimes we've had some pretty tough years and they've hit it pretty hard. Sometimes it takes a bounce around a little bit, but from there. So we're definitely in this. Where are we going to go from here? Are we going to slide these numbers down a little bit, or are we going to see them going back up from the USDA? I'd have to say that other updates that we were getting from seed companies, banks, people like this that have had their own little tours out here in Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, and that. And they all had a little bit of a cautionary tale here. They didn't really add a lot more, to me at least. If you're going to talk about parts of Illinois and coming up with an average of 230, that doesn't tell me that all of a sudden the state of Illinois is going to be at 225, or is it going to end up being at the 220 zone that Pro Farmer did at this point? Because the bottom third of Illinois, particularly south of I-70, is not the most productive area of the state. So anyway, that's the kind of things we're dealing with here on things as they're going along. From that standpoint, the Bloomberg numbers that came out Friday afternoon, they had their average yield at 182.7 versus 183.1. So that's 4/10 of a bushel. And they had their production number down about 42 million bushels, I should say, at 15.1 from there. The big difference that I've got going on mine is I really anticipate some of these states like South Dakota that the USDA had a 162 just isn't going to come through here because of the numbers we saw from the crop tours out there. And at this point, and so I'm kind of looking for 180.5, which is definitely a pretty aggressive approach to it here at this point. That might be the outside of what I'm definitely the lowest expectations out there for it. But at the same time, I kind of feel like that this year's groupings of numbers are so concentrated in the 180 to 183 when the trade is all in a very narrow range. and not really considering outside scenarios, that usually sometimes has something bigger. Now, maybe I'm wrong and they're going to go up 185 from the USDA, but we do have this time around, we do have what they call enumerators, which have put out plots out there across 10 states. And so we're actually going to have their input on it, and that means we're going to have more people or a more scientific look at it here as to what kind of yields were out there, along with, of course, the producer numbers, and then of course we'll have the same satellite data. But I think during August, all we had was satellite data versus the and producer inputs. We did not have any kind of USDA scouts out there giving us some updates from the individual fields. And that's what we even saw in our little central Illinois tour. Things could be pretty good looking at it from the outside, but sometimes those pollination issues and also heat dropping off some kernels from the tips definitely had some impact as we were going through our central Illinois tour here of, well, I guess
You
it's
also
not.
changed the initial stocks on your estimates. Why is
Oh,
that?
well, that when we're looking at the impact of this scenario here on the combination of the less supply and looking at the corn's situation, we've really had a pretty strong uh, ethanol approach. We have a very strong one here just announced this week for July. Looks like it's going to be. So I'm anticipating that our ethanol number might be increased 15 million for an old crop. And also, I think that the export, I know that the Pearsons of uh, inspections don't always tell the complete story, and they are a little bit disappointing in comparison to the USDA projection. But with Mexico being such a huge importer of U.S. corn, all that moves across the border on trains and does not even hit the export facility numbers. So I think the combination of 25 million more exports and possibly 15 million more of ethanol use. That's a 40 million number. It's not, it's taking it from 1860 down to about 1825 type situation. And then you add that into my beginning as a beginning stock for the coming year, then things get a lot more interesting. I'm definitely anticipating the USDA to bring down its 2 billion number here on carryover stock. The trade is looking for just about a 40 million adjustment here downward. I'm definitely looking for a number that's a lot higher, primarily because of the fact that my 2.6 bushel output number is going to produce less bushels, plus the carryover stock situation from this year was going to create a carryover stock about 1.8 billion. That's down from 2.07, I should say, billion this last year. To some extent, these numbers are maybe a tad aggressive for the USDA make these major adjustments all in 1 month. But I think what I'm really kind of trying to point out to producers and people out there is the fact that when you have too many people standing on one side of the teeter-totter, things can get quite dramatic with the changes happening on the other side. The weather has been a little erratic. We've had some shots in here. Even this last week, we were hot early in the week. Now we're below normal here on this weekend. And that's so things they're talking about it warming back up next week again. It is important that we keep keeping moisture to help fill out and finish these crops out here. And so far, at least, it's been a little erratic here. We actually in the Chicagoland area, we only had about 65% of normal this last month in August, and we're off to a very slow start again this month. So, got to make sure I keep water in my lawn.
Yes, and you mentioned Chicago, the corn at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange has has been up during the opening on Friday, but on the other hand, soybeans ended the day 18 cents lower. So, do you think that this has anything to do with the upcoming September report from the United States Department of Agriculture?
Well, I think it's a combination of the weather issues and things like that, and the twist in the soybean scenario is that the soybean expectations, even I'm anticipating a higher number of yield and than the August crop report, but I'm not uh, as high as the and I'm about 7/10 lower than what came out of the data from Pro Farmer, and that. Well, the real interesting twist is that we kind of rallied up to important technical 50-day moving average. It's a weekend, things of that nature. Uh, I don't know that we've got any forecasts out here for moisture that's really justifies a big setback in the prices, but I think we just got a profit-taking surge. But it is important that the upcoming USDA crop report is going to likely uh, show a higher number than August. Will it be as high as the Pro Farmer? Probably not. The interesting thing about their and they do as good a job as we can expect during their crop tour of counting pods and trying to interpret that into a yield, because their soybeans are a very, very difficult crop to be able to. Uh, you have pods are important, but the other side part of it is how big the seeds are and how many seeds are in the pods. That's very complicated until you really get in the bin and start piling it up. Do you really get a final yield on that? So, to some extent, I guess that's my approach here, being a little cautious. I'm looking for 7/10 down at 54.2 bushels from there. And from that standpoint, uh, it's down from the Pro Farmer, but still up from the USDA's previous number. I'm just 1 bushel higher than the USDA's average back in August. So that's that. 1 more bushel is definitely important. Some people have their carryover stocks and expectations for the coming year up another bushel or so, and so that's a big difference on your carryover. The other twist in this thing that's in the background is what South America can do as we go forward in this.
Yeah,
They're a
we
huge
we
competitor.
have had the first estimates for the Argentinian upcoming corn crop, and also on the background we have to mention the significant drop in crude oil.
Yeah, well, the price of crude oil is definitely it's an interesting world. There's lots of cautionary attitudes around the world about what's going to happen with the economy here, with the potential change in, or the new president in the U.S. From there, a lot of people are cautious about what the Republican candidate might do or not do in that, and so there's a lot of pullback on demand and energy and other things along the way from that standpoint. But from the standpoint of the world of agriculture, at least at this point, we're going to have more supplies available to us, so our potential prices here in the U.S. are not going to be determined by what's going on in the world output here. It's going to be what's going on in South America and what happens happen in the upcoming Argentine and Brazilian crop years. You've did mention, and rightly so, that there seems to be a big trend in Argentina about reducing their uh, corn plantings this coming year. Seems like it's from 1.7 to as much as 2 million hectares, which is a significant increase, or decrease, I should say, in corn planting. This all comes about because of last year's leafhopper problems and the impact on their pollination and things like that. Since we were looking at 52 or 53 million metric ton crop, and it came in, it seems like in most indications here, slightly below 50 million, maybe 49, 9.5 metric tons. So, but that means there could be more soybean plantings in Argentina. But the other twist of it is that some very respected private uh, people in Brazil are talking about the fact that the lower soybean prices worldwide is likely to keep the expansion in soybean area in Brazil only up to 9/10%. That's under 1%. That's the lowest in like 17, 18, 19 years, something like that, from there, which is interesting, and if in turn the La Nina impact comes through and reduces yields, and that then this theory that we're going to have 165 to 170 uh, million metric ton crop of Brazilian beans might be threatened too. So we got a combination of weather and economics here that could have some real dramatics. At this point, we have to see what the USDA's numbers turn out to be next week. How do they did do they kind of follow a modest increase in the bean yield and maybe even a slight decline in corn is what the trades are looking for here. And we'll see how at this point, interestingly enough, I don't know that we're going to have a real early harvest here, so we're probably not going to have any real decent U.S. harvest data come in until late this in September, early October this year. But it'll be highly important what happens initially here in the U.S. and what the weather is going to be on the Brazilian crops as they decide to start planting. Sometimes we had to delay all the way into mid to late October to get that planted down there, and that would be quite an interesting twist if that turned out to be the case.
All right, we'll check, and people need to stay tuned to our channel to keep to be updated. Thank you very
Right.
much.
You bet. Next Thursday's numbers will be out, and we'll have a chance to look at them there. Let's see what the USDA has to say, and have a good weekend.